Coverage you can count on continues with Heather Herron and Mark Mellinger.
More than 2 years ago, a local high school athlete survived a second plane crash. Since then, Austin Hatch has moved to California to continue his high school career.
Today, Hatch is expected to open up for the first time about that plane crash and his future playing basketball at the University of Michigan. News Channel 15's Glenn Marini joins us live from Los Angeles, where the press conference is scheduled to take place in about a half an hour. Glenn?
That's right, Mark and Heather. We are live in Los Angeles on the campus of Loyola High School here at Otero Lecture Hall. We're at the top of the hour, 6 o'clock your time, 3 o'clock here locally. Austin Hatch will speak publicly for the first time since a 2011 plane crash took the life of Austin's father, Dr. Stephen Hatch, and Austin's stepmother, Kimberly. Austin, the sole survivor in that crash. He's going to talk about a myriad of topics today. That includes his recovery, his transferring here to Loyola, and also what it means to sign with the University of Michigan and continue his basketball career in college. And nobody is closer to the situation than Dave Quast, the family spokesman. And Dave, today, in some ways, do you think for the Hatch family, separates the past from the future?
Well, perhaps. I mean, it's a really good opportunity. I think there's been a lot of interest in Austin's story, of course, and his real priority has to be his recovery. It has to be his academics and then basketball in that order. So it's a good opportunity, I think, for people to get their questions asked and then or answered, and then to have, Austin have the privacy that he needs to continue with what he needs to really focus on.
You've obviously been really close to this situation. It's not only a popular story in Fort Wayne. People are following him around the country. What's been the response from people when they hear Austin's story? And then what's been the response from the media? Because I imagine you've got a ton of requests throughout the country.
Sure. I mean, people obviously are very inspired by Austin's story. Everyone wishes him well. And that's really been the tenor, I think, of most of the inquiries has been, people wanting just to make sure that they're looking after Austin's well-being. And so I think Austin will be able to speak to that today and how he's doing and, how his recovery is going.
Real quick, do you anticipate it being an emotional press conference today?
Well, we'll see. I think it may well be for a lot of people. So we'll have to stay tuned.
All right, Austin. An amazing recovery to get back to this level. He signed with the University of Michigan to play basketball last week. That, again, is one of the many topics he's going to be talking about today at 6 o'clock your time, 3 o'clock here locally. We're going to bring it to you live on Wayne TV. We're going to have a live report that's right here in Los Angeles with coverage you can count on. Plus, you can go to Wayne.com where we're also streaming the press conference. It should be great coverage, and we are anticipating a great night talking basketball and recovery with Austin Hatch as we continue our coverage you can count on here in Los Angeles. Mark and Heather, back to you.
All right, thank you, Glenn. And up next, Nicholas will have one last check of your 7-day planner.
You're watching coverage you can count on. This is News Channel 15's News at 6.
Good evening. He has survived 2 plane crashes and the loss of several members of his immediate family. Since then, former Canterbury student Austin Hatch has worked on his recovery in private without talking to the media.
2 years later, Austin has decided to break his silence at a news conference in Los Angeles. Sports director Glenn Marini is in L.A. tonight at the press conference and joins us live with a story that's been years in the making.
That's right, Mark and Heather. We are live in Los Angeles on the campus of Loyola High School in the Otero Lecture Hall, where Austin Hatch is set to speak publicly for the first time since a tragic plane crash in the summer of 2011. Austin having a press conference set to speak in about 2 minutes. He'll be announced and be answering a variety of questions, including the crash, his recovery, what the basketball world holds for him in the future as he signed with the University of Michigan last week. And we'll be bringing that to you live here on Wayne TV as soon as he steps into the room and steps to the podium. Austin Hatch speaking publicly again for the first time since 2011. We'll bring it to you live right here on Wayne TV. Coverage you can count on. We'll take it then. But for now, Mark and Heather, back to you in the studio.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Lutheran Hospital had to reroute water for about 12 hours because
Coverage you can count on continues with Heather Herron and Mark Mellinger.
We return to our top story tonight. Austin Hatch, the former Canterbury student who survived 2 plane crashes, is talking to the media for the first time in Los Angeles.
He is speaking right now, and we're going to join that press conference live.
But basketball has gave me something to shoot for, and it's been my goal. From when I woke up in the coma, or from the coma rather, in Chicago. I told people, I said I'm going to play basketball again, and there are people who doubted me, and then I basically just say, thank you for your opinion, but I'm going to prove you wrong.
Austin, what's been the most difficult challenge for you in recovery?
I would say, aside from the obvious physical trauma I suffered in the accident, recovering from that, I would say dealing with some of the emotional pain, which I don't think will ever fully subside. Dealing with the loss of my best friend, my coach, my teacher, mentor, my number one fan. That same man, Dr. Stephen Hatch, was also my father, and was an incredible man, and taught me everything I know. And the things I learned from him are the work ethic necessary to succeed, the importance of faith, determination, and courage in the midst of hardships. Those traits I acquired from him are what saved my life.
Do you think you'd be in a different place today if you did not have that goal, if you didn't have basketball to focus on?
I actually think I would, because basketball gave me something to shoot for. Obviously, like I said before, the academics are my number one priority. But the basketball was just having a goal, and I realized how lofty it was. I mean, there were times when I couldn't walk. From when I was in a wheelchair, I told people I was going to play basketball. And, being in a wheelchair and hearing a kid talking about playing basketball seems kind of, the chances seem remote. But, I just said, I'm going to get there. And I'll tell you, my time is coming soon.
Austin, you mentioned that there were people who doubted you. Was that doctors, friends, acquaintances, a little bit of everyone?
I can't really get specific with that. But there were those who didn't have their full belief in what I could do. I'm not going to say names or give their identities or anything. But I just felt feelings like, these people don't believe in me really, and I just kind of used that as motivation. And said, you know what, I'm going to give you an opportunity to change your opinion.
Austin, what has Coach Beilein said about your role and what he expects from you from the moment that you step on campus as a member of the Michigan Wolverines?
He expects me to be a very important part of Michigan basketball as a whole. Whether it be on the court, in the locker room, in the classroom. I'm gonna help that team win basketball games. He wouldn't still be giving me a full ride scholarship to the school if he didn't see, like there was some upside to having me as a part of the Michigan basketball program. So I'm very excited for the future, and I'm just gonna continue to work hard at everything, and we'll see where things go.
Austin, can you talk about the decision to move out here to Los Angeles and pick this school? How did that happen?
Yeah, coming to live with my dad's brother, my Uncle Michael, over here on my right. He's a great young man who welcomed me into his home with open arms, which is really honored my father by doing that. And I think it was just kind of an offer I couldn't refuse, because as great as Fort Wayne was, it had everything I needed, from Canterbury School to Spies Fieldhouse to St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church, to all my friends, all the families. But there are some resources out here in LA that simply don't exist in Fort Wayne, and I just felt like I needed to take advantage of the opportunities I would have here to prepare me to succeed in life.
Resources in terms of your recovery, or?
Yes, resources such, some of the, coming to Loyola, for example. Some of the connections that I've made out here already, they simply just don't exist in Fort Wayne.
Austin, can you describe a little bit about where you've drawn strength during your recovery?
Can you clarify the question, please?
From who or what have you drawn strength in terms of your emotional recovery?
Yeah, obviously I've been through a lot, lost a lot. But the one thing that's been there through my whole road to recovery, throughout my whole life, for that matter, is just my faith. And anyone who knows me understands the fact that I put a very importance on my faith. And I think that's been the thing that's enabled me to recover the way I have and able to persevere in the midst of adversity.
Austin, what's preventing you now from getting into a competitive game? What more do you still need to do?
I still need to work on my fundamentals a little bit more. What was once second nature, as a result of the brain injury, I have to think about stuff, think about on the court stuff that I really shouldn't have to think about, and that's just going to take time. And I think practice doesn't make perfect, but I've tried to practice things the right way, and I think practice makes it permanent. And by that I mean, if I practice doing things the right way enough, I'll be able to do them the right way in the game under the pressure I'm going to be in. And I tell you, I've been working very hard since day one back in Chicago. Since I could work at anything. When I got out of the hospital bed, and I've been working on my fundamentals and on anything and everything to help me get back on the court someday.
An emotional Austin Hatch talking about his faith in basketball and the role they've played in his recovery, talking about the loss of his dad. And that's a news conference you can catch streaming live on Wayne.com. We're going to have more later tonight at 11 as well.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Coverage you can count on continues with Joe Whalen's Sports Report.
Austin Hatch spoke publicly for the first time in nearly 2.5 years this afternoon at a press conference in California. The former Canterbury star made national headlines last week by signing his national letter of intent with Michigan. News Channel 15 sports director Glenn Marini is live in Los Angeles tonight and has more on that. Glenn.
Joe, at today's press conference, I asked Austin if his signing with the University of Michigan last week meant that his recovery has come full circle. He said a little bit yes and a little bit no. The yes part is that because he signed with the Wolverine Nation, he's officially become a Big Ten basketball player. That's always been one of his big goals. But on the no side, he says he's not physically where he would want to be and says he isn't even ready to play a game here at Loyola.
Basketball has gave me something to shoot for. And it's been my goal, from when I woke up in the coma, or from the coma rather, in Chicago. I told people, I said I'm going to play basketball again, and there are people who doubted me, and then I basically just say, thank you for your opinion, but I'm going to prove you wrong.
Austin Hatch has beaten the odds more than once, but his goal is perfection. While he's been cleared by California's governing body to play at Loyola High School, Hatch won't suit up for the team's opener in a couple of weeks as he's still trying to fine-tune his game before he makes his official return to the basketball court.
Still need to work on my fundamentals a little bit more. What was once second nature as a result of the brain injury, I have to think about stuff, think about on the court stuff that I really shouldn't have to think about, and that's just going to take time.
Austin has almost a full year before he arrives on campus in Ann Arbor. His eventual role with the Wolverines is still unclear at this point, but he notes that head coach John Beilein honored his scholarship for a reason.
He expects me to be a very important part of Michigan basketball as a whole, whether it be on the court, in the locker room, in the classroom. I'm gonna help that team win basketball games. He wouldn't still be giving me a full ride scholarship to the school if he didn't see like there was some upside to having me as a part of the Michigan basketball program. So I'm very excited for the future, and I'm just going to continue to work hard at everything, and we'll see where things go.
I spoke with Loyola's basketball coach after today's press conference. He says the glimpses of Austin's talent are becoming more and more frequent in Loyola's practices. In fact, Loyola's got a 7-foot center that signed with UCLA last week. And in last week's practice, Austin did a little deke, a little layup around that talented 7-footer. And coach said that was definitely a high D1 move. And as I mentioned, it looks like the talent for Austin is continuing to improve, and his recovery continues to happen here at Loyola. And, of course, if you want any more on Austin Hatch, you can go to the Wayne.com sports page or just our Wayne.com website. But for now, I'm Glenn Marini reporting live in Los Angeles. Joe, back to you.
Thank you, Glenn. Good to see Austin doing well. IBFW, meanwhile, is riding a 2-game winning streak coming into the night.